Hi, I'm Laura Lawton with Lawton Printing Services. Welcome to Candidate Confidential. We're happy to have you join us. We're happy to join Spokane Talks Online for this important civic service. The Lawton team has been serving the Inland Northwest for over 77 years. What keeps us motivated is the continuous evolution of our company to better serve the clients we work with every day. We are also fortunate to have so many people willing to step up to serve our communities. Being a candidate and civil servant is too often a thankless job. I know you join me in thanking these forward-thinking individuals for their dedication to us all. With that, I thank you for taking the time to learn more about the people who want to lead our communities. Enjoy the debate and give Lawton a call for any of your marketing, printing, or mailing needs. Thank you.
Welcome on behalf of Spokane Talks Online. Welcome to Candidate Confidential. I'm Rich Cowan, and I'm here with two great people here running for the City Council of Spokane Valley, Linda Hatcher-Thompson and Mike Munch. And we're going to get right into these issues right after this break.
Proposition 2 is not about politics. It's about protecting Spokane's economy.
I'm opposed to Proposition 2.
I'm opposed to Prop 2.
I'm opposed to Proposition 2.
Proposition 2 just doesn't make sense.
I am opposing Proposition 2.
I'm against Proposition 2.
I'm opposed to Proposition 2.
I'm opposed to Prop 2 because we have to protect Spokane's economy.
Thank you, and we're back. And we're going to start off with Mike. First question is law enforcement and crime. And why are you running for office, and is this a big issue for you?
Yeah, I think it's a big issue in this region. We excuse me, are fairly blessed as far as not having the violent crime problems that a lot of other cities have. But we do have a very high property crime and vehicle theft problem. And, before I got on council, honestly, I thought it was somewhat an easier issue to address. But the more that I've dug into it, the more multifaceted it is. You've got we've been successful in getting grants strictly for property crimes enforcement for our police officers, but those don't come along with help for the prosecutor's office. So then we get this backlog of cases, and they've actually had to let people just go because they couldn't charge them in time. On top of that, we don't have enough housing, so to speak, for them. So even if they are arrested multiple times, a lot of times they're turned away because we don't have the heads and beds room for them. So those things really make an issue. It's not just an issue of hiring a few more patrol officers and a few more detectives to go after that. It's so multi-pronged, and then on top of all that, you're just treating the symptom. So what's the real issue? Why do we have such a high property crime rate? And I think that a lot of it has to do with the substance abuse and different things like that, because most people, when they get into the heavier drugs especially, aren't able to hold a job either through lack of willpower anymore or just because of what the drugs do to their body. So they turn to crime to subsidize their lifestyle. And so until we really start looking at some of these underlying assets or issues that are causing this, it's going to be an issue. And I don't think just more police officers is the right thing to do right now. We can't even fully fund or fully staff, I should say, our police. We are contracted for 50 some odd detectives and deputies and all of that, and because the sheriff's department's had a hard time finding good candidates, or even finding candidates, that we're understaffed right now for what we should have. So to me, I just really like to see a lot more focus on treating the symptoms of this rather than just what's happening.
Just looking
there.
at the police staffing issue.
Yeah.
Linda, what do you have to say about that?
Well, crime is a major issue, and addressing that is, as Mike was saying, a huge issue with so many components to it. I've been working with law enforcement for the past 25 years on impaired driving prevention, substance abuse prevention, and trying to do public policy work within our laws and rulemaking, especially since the legalization of marijuana and all the things that have happened to change the law enforcement realm and the issues that are coming into our community. I do support the contract with the sheriff's office and feel that the officers that are serving Spokane Valley in our police department are exemplary. They're working very hard, but We do need more resources. We do have the added benefit of the SCOPE volunteers, which really is a leveraging point for us to have community engagement and involvement on neighborhoods. And the Neighborhood Watch is important as well. It's really citizen engagement, and again, my focus has been on prevention because, one of my children was killed by an impaired driver, and I feel like we have got to help people get into treatment, recovery, and find solutions for them to be successful when they have served their time or done what they needed to do to get through the court. But citizens are constantly talking about being affected by property crime, prowling, and just crimes that impact them personally in their neighborhood. And so it is a major issue that we need to address in Spokane Valley.
Well, I'm sort of hearing the same thing in a way. It's citizen involvement. It's not so much a staffing issue. Is there anything that you might differ with each other on?
We honestly haven't discussed it amongst ourselves, so I don't know for sure. But, Linda hit it on the head that, community involvement is key for any of this stuff. It's part of the issue for me with overreaching government is that people haven't been doing the job that they're supposed to do individually themselves.
Sure.
So if nobody's doing that, then a
Right.
vacuum forms and we have to pay for it at that point. So the more that we can focus on, programs like Linda runs and Scope volunteers and different things like that, it frees up our officers to do what they really need to do, and that's to me the only way we fix this situation is getting down to the societal issues that are causing them, because otherwise we're just treating symptoms, we're not treating the problem.
Sure.
And it's never going to go away.
Sure, Linda?
Well, and the lack of resources for prevention and support in our schools, like student assistance specialists that can help kids who have issues around substance abuse or violence, those resources are missing, even though there's a lot of excise tax generated by the marijuana issue. We're not getting that into the communities. And I think that's critical as we see a rise in drug driving and, as Mike stated, crimes that are related to substance use and the criminal activity. We're just not able to head that off. So, when you ask if we disagree or we seem similar, we are. We're community people who are seeing what's out there and the importance to our citizens, because we have to listen to what they're saying and find ways to address that without the resources we really need to have.
Right, but you would advocate for more resources in that area.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In the legislature, I have advocated for prevention dollars for student assistance specialists back in the schools, for increased law enforcement when we privatized alcohol, hard liquor in our state, and legalized marijuana. There was no provision for increased enforcement dollars. And the cities are getting a fraction of what they really need to address this. And so working with our 4th District legislators, we've tried and tried in our advocacy. We just need to be stronger in our ask and come together as a community to demand that those resources be moved to the community level.
Mm-hmm. And Mike, would you say that working with the legislators is a good idea?
Oh yes, definitely. We're blessed in the 4th to have the representatives that we do. They're very approachable and very active. And to me, the marijuana is a big thing, like Linda brought up, because in a sense we were sold a false bill of sale on it. We were told, we'll get all this money for the school prevention and resource officers and this, and I can't remember for sure, but it's something ridiculous, like $8,000 or something is all that we got out of the $100-some million in taxes. So it's just, and like Linda brought up with the alcohol, it goes on and on. Lottery sales were supposed to fund schools, casinos, all this stuff. We're told, this will go here, and so that's why working with the legislators is key, because if that's what we're told and that's where that money is supposed to be, then they really need to be advocating for that money for us, and they are. But it's an uphill battle.
Okay. Well, let's move on to taxes in the Valley. And Linda, maybe what's your position right now?
Well, I do know that we have some of the poorest areas in the state in Spokane Valley, in like the Edgecliff area, some of the northern sections of our city. And I think it's important that we look at what our citizens can afford and look at what especially our senior citizens and those who are living with very little income, to help them. How do we look at the services we need, and how do we help them pay their portion of the taxes? We are looking at 2018 looks like we're good on a lot of the road preservation and other things. But as we come more into 2019, we're going to see a decline and a deficit in what we need for road maintenance. We've got to find a solution. I've been to the council meetings, I've been to the staffing briefings to the council, talking about what the options are. We have got to find a solution. I am not for raising taxes, but looking at where we can maybe blend services or what we can do to better utilize the money that we have, as well. Look at grants, look at partnering, leveraging that money in maybe regional partnerships. I know the city of Spokane and Spokane County are looking at how we're going to address the tax shortages, and I think those partnerships are going to be critical in how we find the funding to do what we need to do to serve our citizens.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, well, as Linda stated, the the only utility tax that we have in the city of the Valley, which makes us unique, is the telephone tax, and that was enacted, I think, 8 years ago or so. And since that time, it's lost almost a couple $1 million in what it started out, not to count inflation that's happened in the meantime. So it is an issue. You know, the city's very vibrant right now, so we don't have the funding shortfall because we're able to pull from other categories. But the problem is we're pulling from other categories. If the economy turns down, it's going to be a big issue, and we should be using that money elsewhere because we want it separated. So, but as far as especially utility taxes, I definitely against those. I think they're like property taxes, and they, you know, adversely affect our fixed income and our businesses. And business is key to funding a government. You can fund it two ways: raising taxes or growing your base. And so I always land on the side of wanting to grow the base. And I think that a huge marketing point for some of these manufacturers is the no utility tax. It saves them a ton of money every month. And so even though Washington State may not be as business friendly as we'd like, that definitely helps fund it. But staff, you know, is working very hard. We've kind of redone the whole public works department, and it's a lot more streamlined right now, like Linda was talking about. And the $6 million shortfall that we were told a few years ago doesn't seem to be holding water. And we're also finding a different way to rate our roads, which should help bring that price down. So hopefully it's not as much of a deficit, but that's kind of, we're in a holding pattern waiting for staff to collect all the information to find out if we are short, how much we are short, and what we need to do about that.
Okay. Linda, what about infrastructure, just kind of thinking long-term on the roads and things like that?
We do have excellent roads in Spokane Valley, and we know that it is a cost benefit to maintain our roads rather than have to redo roads. And so that is important, that we invest in our roads and make sure that we are maintaining not only good roads to drive on, but the safety around that, and to make sure we have sidewalks and you know, good roads and repairs done, and make sure we have safe routes to school. All the things that we need to have is a part of our infrastructure. I also believe that we need to work with businesses and the Chamber, Greater Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce, get partnerships going. They've had great success in some economic development. I know the Sullivan Park, the industrial park out on Sullivan, is just growing by leaps and bounds. But we have to also have infrastructure and housing to be able to support that growth of business in our community. And so I think it's about bringing people together, talking about how the issues are around infrastructure, who has ideas. We have excellent staff at our city, but I think we have expertise out in our community that we can learn through with partnerships and advocate in our legislature for the resources we need to maintain our infrastructure.
Okay, great. What about the fire department? Mike?
You know, it's amazing. Brian, our chief out there, Brian Collins, has done a remarkable job. It was a great organization even before he came onto it, but he recently went for, I forget the name of it now, but a rating agency basically that rates fire departments, and he got, you know, top of it. We're one of two, I believe, in the entire state of Washington with this rating, and that allowed the homeowners to save money on their homeowners insurance. You know, so he's very forward thinking. I've talked to him a lot about emergency preparedness, because that's one of the things that I'm concerned about. You know, as we watch these natural disasters happen around the world, you know, it's not the government's job to make sure you're fed and watered and clothed and all that kind of stuff, but the infrastructure needs to be there for them. So, so I've been focusing on getting that brought up, and Brian's, you know, there's nothing I can fix with Brian. Let's put it that way. You know, he's so forward thinking that he's applying for all the grants that he needs to keep it functioning well. You know, so he's done a great job, and I can't say enough about how successful they've been out there.
Right. Linda, fire department.
Of course, having had my brother be a captain with Valley Fire for 30-some years, I have always admired and appreciated the fire department. One of the things that I really appreciate about the fire department is working with the other districts around Spokane Valley Fire. They have an agreement that they will go on calls, that they will work together on major incidences, and and when we first incorporated as a valley, city in the valley, I was not, our home was not in the boundaries. It is now.
Okay.
But we always appreciated when Spokane Valley Fire came into our neighborhood to help, because we had mostly volunteers, fire department. I really appreciate that every firefighter is an EMT, and then we have the higher level of paramedics. And so we have really good expertise. And of course, there was a law passed 3 years ago, I believe, that every ninth grader in the state has to learn CPR. So I would like to see our citizens become more engaged in knowing, as Mike said, being prepared for disasters, for incidents that happen. And so I think utilizing that, because our fire department has a 56% save rate on heart attacks and incidences, and I think we can help raise that by having our citizens get more engaged in that process.
Okay, great. Let's move on to just your overall vision. Where do you see the city going down, down 5-10 years down the road, Linda?
Well, I love this city. I've lived here since I was 14, a little bit of time away in Vancouver, Washington, but I love the hominess of our city. You see people all over who have lived there for a long time, went to school there, come back home, moved back from when they went to a bigger city and decided this was a great place to raise their children. I see our city as a place where the citizens can come and have a voice. Our council is very open to having citizens give information, and I think it's important to be out with our citizens, like at Valley Fest, at school events. Our districts are exemplary, teaching our kids good things. I want to support that. I want to bring more resources to our community for infrastructure and for economic development. We are very different from our neighboring cities in a lot of things, much more conservative and much more focused on, I'm not saying other cities aren't focused on family, but focused on what can really help our citizens from every walk of life in our communities. And so I just see that we're going to grow and grow and just really have more opportunities for our young people to get involved in leadership. That's what I would like to see. I have an idea to have a Citizens Academy where the citizens can come and hear what each department at the city does, what our partners do, like Valley Fire, Valley Partners, the Chamber, and start to grow a group of young people who will take on leadership when older folks like me are ready to step down. And I think that's important, that we focus on our young people and opportunities for them.
Great. Mike?
Yeah, I haven't lived here as long as Linda has. I'm a relatively new transplant, as far as I've only been in the Valley specifically for a couple of years now. But I've lived in the region my entire life. And one of the things that attracted me to the Valley was, like Linda said, it's we get this name almost of a bedroom community for Spokane, and in a lot of ways we are, but that's changing now, as you see the Valley continuing to grow. It's growing by leaps and bounds, and it's scary almost, because it is growing so fast, and we need to be ready for that infrastructure. We have issues on Barker because it's an old 2-lane rural road, and it's got way more traffic than it was ever designed for. So, looking forward at those things, I think, is key as a city council, that we need to look at the direction the city's going and plan that. You're not going to be able to avoid everything, but when you see those pitfalls opening up, you need to be ready to react. And so we've designated a bunch of the reserves that we had this year to study in problems like Barker, and bringing that forward to where we can actually start applying for grants sooner than we were planning on, along with the rail overpasses and things like that, because the job of a city government is basically infrastructure, when it comes down to it, and protecting the citizens, first and foremost. So infrastructure is huge to me. I've been a builder all my life, or my working life, I should say, but if you're not ready for it, it becomes a huge mess. And that's what we're preparing for. We've almost opened up 200 additional acres in the industrial park, working with the county to get sewer lines extended and that kind of thing. So the growth is coming. You know, we just landed 2 huge manufacturers that'll be about 500 to 600 jobs, good paying jobs in the valley, you know, by doing those things. But that means 500-600 people moving to the valley. So
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the discussion. I'd like to offer each about a minute or so for some closing thoughts. So Linda, go ahead.
Okay, well, I thank you for watching today and hearing our conversation about how great Spokane Valley is and what I could bring to the council as your council member in position 7. I would appreciate hearing from you. Easy to get in touch with me at votelindathompson.com or give me a call, and let's just see what we can do to make our valley great. Thank you.
Mike?
Well, thanks for having us, and thanks for watching. I think it's important to know the stances that we all take. And, you know, I enjoy standing on the record. I've only been on council for a year. I was appointed last year, but I think in that year we've done a tremendous amount of work, and there's still a lot more work to be done, and I'm excited to do it, have a vision for it. And if you'd like more information, you can reach me on Facebook at Retain Mike Munch or www.retainmikemunch.com or by phone or email. You know, I'm very accessible, and I love hearing citizens' ideas and whether we can implement them or not.
Well, great. Well, thank you both very much. Linda Hatcher Thompson and Mike Munch.
Thank you.
Both running for the same position,
Yes.
Spokane Valley City Council. And I'm Rich Cowan, and go out and vote. Thank you so much.